Welcome to Women in the Arena podcast, the podcast celebrating women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. I'm your host, Audra Egan, and our mission is to elevate the value, strength, and resilience each woman brings to the world. Without further delay, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Audra, your host of Women in the Arena podcast, where we celebrate women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. It is December. I don't know how we got here, but we're here and we're here together, and we are in the middle of the holiday shopping season. And I have two more female entrepreneurs that I really am excited to introduce you to. I want you to get to know these women and these daring entrepreneurs that are so bold to chase their dream. Even when people thought that it couldn't be done, they went and did it anyway. So without further delay, let's start the show. Welcome in, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm joined by Jen Singh, and she is a full-time artist as well as running a art gallery and boutique full-time. She's also a teacher and a mentor for emerging artists. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome Jen Singh. Jen, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Audra. I'm excited to be here.
I am really, really excited for you to be here because you have such a unique craft, and I'm excited to talk to you because in my sphere of influence, I don't get to speak to artists very often, but I'm fascinated by the world of art. But before we jump into that, Jen, would you tell us a little bit more about you so we can get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. So I'm an artist. Obviously, I've been working full time for several years now, but I wasn't always in this beautiful spot in my life of being able to paint my studio every day. I had illustrator, freelance, time in my life, and I've worked for an exhibit company, and I've worked for a home building company doing graphic design. And that journey has brought me here, and I'm so, thankful to be able to create and paint and, bring it full circle, not only for myself, but to put it out in the world, which is no small thing as an artist to do, to put out a very private thing that you do inside and put it out on canvas or wood or paper for other people to see. It's vulnerable, and it makes me very happy when I paint, and it's just an amazing experience to be able to have this journey.
So what's it like to have your profession as a creator? Because many of us don't have that. We have creative hobbies, but we don't actually get to do that as a living. What does that feel like to be able to create for your way of life?
It's pretty amazing, actually, because honestly, I've worked for myself, quote unquote, for 20 years. But when I had to work for someone, I always felt like this isn't me. It just was not me. I was unhappy. I didn't want to be in an office. I didn't want to be behind a computer all the time, even if it was creative. And it's a struggle, actually, to to get yourself in the realm where you're like, okay, this is what I need to be doing. Because a lot of us are like, I have to have a job. I need to go somewhere 9 to 5 and do these things. And to take that, different perspective of, no, I can do this. I can actually have a career as an artist and be financially stable. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it is doable. And I love the community of people that grow around you, like all the people that you meet of all creative pathways are great influencers for sure.
To be surrounded by all of those amazing creative people is probably really invigorating for the soul. Because I know for me personally, when I create in my free time and my hobbies, it is a very freeing feeling. But what I wanted to get to today is even though having have this space of creativity and freedom of that, the last year has been hard. And it's been hard on all of us. It's been on all of us that have structured professions. But what's it like to be a creative in the middle of 2020, a pandemic? And how has that affected you?
Yes. So it's actually so when January came around, I had this big plan in my mind that this year is it. 2020 feels like this epic time to make big changes and really go forward in my career. And then, of course, by end of February, March, when the world was slowly shutting down, so were my plans. And honestly, it was shocking. I had signed up to do some festivals. Those were canceled, of course. I was going to start getting out to galleries and showing my work and submitting to different events. Of course, all of that got shut down, and then everything turned inward. It was about online. It was about, okay, I have to market myself through my website, through my socials, my Instagram, my Facebook, my personal connections, my brick and mortar creative business. Thank God that was able to thrive in the end.
So you were able to pivot that
We were
and
able to pivot that to an online e-commerce structure that helped us float through. And but at the same time, so those two things in tandem, my brick and mortar business shut down, closed doors for 2 months. My plans out the window, and it was looking at the wall and going, well,
what do we do now?
I mean, you're actually laughing because it's hysterical in this, oh my God way. But let's figure this out. So, but then the stories emerge, and thank God for podcasts and all the things, and I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts. I'll tell you that, learning about other artists and how they were coping, and of course, our own artists in our shop at Garage Door Studio. We have 70 emerging artists, and their struggles were real. And trying to be supportive and a mentor to them also helped me. It being able to give ideas to other artists and say, hey, have you tried this, and then of course a lot of our sewers, our textile people, started making masks galore.
Well, thank goodness for that.
And
I
yeah.
so just so everybody can feel like we all were in the same boat. So many of us started 2020 thinking this is our year. This is the year to break out and do this, or I'm going to do this, and everything came to a screeching halt in February. So we were all in the same boat, and we all had to figure out, well, how do we go forward? So your artists, if I understand the world of creating art on that level, you make your living by showing your work and mostly doing it in person and doing festival circuit and having people come into your gallery and purchase these items, and that was just no longer available. And so
No.
you were trying to keep your own creative forces going forward while trying to keep a business running. um, how did you pivot your gallery business into an online presence, so not only could you continue to support yourself but support the 70 artists that depended on you?
So I would say a lot of what we ended up doing was we did a lot of live Facebook and Instagram events where we would promote a certain date and time that we would be highlighting different makers. And those were a lot of fun. We would get a lot of engagement. And then, of course, it goes posted on your feed, and people can watch the recording of the live session later. And as we were doing these Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives and different videos, the aha moment was we need to be doing more videos. Look at all these people looking at us. And then I go home and I'm looking in my studio. I'm like, I need to have a live art show. So
What
I
a great
said,
idea, because you've got all these people stuck at home that can't go to the movies, can't go to concerts, can't travel, can't do any of this stuff. You can only watch so much Netflix at one time. Um,
mm-hmm.
you're stuck at home with your family. They're looking for another outlet. So you went like, well, I got this. I'll just do a live these live art shows. So, and I want to hear about the live art shows, but before I want to get to the details of that, what kinds of artists are you showing?
So artists in our studio are painters and jewelry makers, potters, ceramics, textiles like crocheting, weaving, paper goods, just about anything handmade that you can think of.
So the gamut. Um,
It's very diverse, yeah.
so how do you do a live art show with that diverse population of artists?
So what we ended up doing was, focusing on one artist at a time or a duo of artists, and we would either highlight them. So when in the early part of the pandemic, when you really just did not want to be out and about at all, my business partner and I would mask up and we would just be in the shop and we would be moving around the store and just highlighting. We would be standing in front of a section of artists' work and say, hey, these pieces were just brought in, and here's a little bit about this maker and what they do. And, go to their Instagram, support them, go to our website. You could buy, all of these items here in the shop online. When we capitalized on every little holiday through the pandemic that happened. So Easter was the first one, and we thought, oh man, what are we doing for Easter? No one's going to be having Easter egg hunts, and it's so sad for the kids. And so we decided we went and got all these little baskets, and we curated Easter baskets for kids and adults. And we made a whole
Whoa,
bunch
what
of
a great
different,
idea. What a
it was so
fabulous
fun.
idea.
And we took photos of them and we promoted them and put it on our website. And people just ate it up because they were so excited that this little uplifting gift was going to be, like husbands are coming in and buying Easter baskets for their wives. And they had jewelry and chocolate and all kinds of cool things. And we're like, oh my gosh, that was like the coolest thing. We've never done that for Easter before. Like, who knew? And so that was a hit.
That is so fun because, like I said, people were looking for anything to keep
Yes.
them moving forward and encouraged. But yeah, tell me more on how you continue to basically launchpad your creativity and expand it.
Yeah. So then, of course, I'm living these two different lives, coming home to the studio and saying, okay, well, that was successful. What else can I do? So, I'm tinkering with my website, and I actually had just launched a brand new website in January that has all the e-commerce capabilities and augmented reality where you can see my images on the walls in your room. So all the technology is in there. I was super psyched about that. So I thought,
That was
okay,
fortuitous that you had
yeah,
that ready to go.
yeah, I know. I know. And, I had done that in December 2019. I thought, I'm doing this, even if it's the holidays, and I'm going to get this website launched and ready. It was my goal, January. So I did it. And then I would say Okay, so then after Easter, then it's like May, June, you're getting into the summertime, and everyone's learning like, oh, our local pools aren't going to be open, and no one's going to be traveling anywhere or going on vacation. We had to cancel a vacation, so everyone's just around at home, and so it was good to just still plug away at promoting on Instagram and doing like giveaways. So then I started doing print giveaways. That was fun. And a lot of people like in the Atlanta area that I marketed to, I just, there was a couple people that won some of my giveaways, and I just hand delivered them to their doorstep with a mask. I'm like, thank you so much for supporting me. So, even though it's a giveaway, it's like, you've got to get the followers and all that. But so yeah, just keeping the eyeballs on what I'm doing. It's constant. Always posting new work and coming up with new little, I would say, I don't want to call them gimmicks, but just like little fun things for people to engage with you on your art. And it just keeps going, right? You have to keep switching it up and keeping it fresh. And I would say that this year, more than any other time in my art career, has had me laser focused on how to get attention.
Ooh,
I just need attention.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how do you do that?
Yeah, how do you do that? How do you focus people's attention on your craft when they can't see you? And it sounds like that 2020 challenged you
Yeah.
to answer that question.
Yeah. So, pivoting to, different ways of marketing yourself and my business, and then keep building on top of that, because once some things start working, and then there's some things that don't work, then there's things that are disappointing, like the Instagram algorithm.
Yeah.
It's like people really aren't seeing my stuff. So what do I do about that? It's about repetition and building an email list, and that has been a big focus of mine, is building my email list this year. And that's slow going, but it's going.
But you're still going forward. So you literally took lemons and made lemonade. Uh, so finding these creative solutions to answer this problem that nobody knew that we needed to have answers for, because I certainly wouldn't have thought, oh, yeah, I need to figure out what to do in case we get shut down for a pandemic. I would never have ever have guessed that I would need to know those skills. Uh, but I do now. Uh, you're in this momentum that you're like, I know how to answer these questions. But what does it do for you creatively? Because you're answering commerce questions creatively. But
Mhm.
how did it affect your creative art process?
That was another level of, yeah. So pretty up and down as far as motivation goes, and also just not getting too caught up in, oh, what if we never get back to normal? Like, don't say those words out loud to yourself, because you have to stay present. You have to look at these challenges as opportunities. And I think for the most part, I did that. I was able to just hunker down in my studio and say, okay, what are you going to do with this work, and creating new work? Because how does that new work reflect what is happening with you now, in your body, in your mind? Like, what does this feel like? And that's important as an artist to put out there. What, just like any artist, when something huge happens in the world, and it comes out of creative people. And that is what my job is. My job is to take all of this information that is around me, and put it out in a visual fashion that I feel good about putting out there, that will emanate hope or joy, or just feeling, you know
Mhm.
and that has, and it's intangible for sure. to
Right.
explain. But once you're thinking of all those things, and I meditate on those things, I have meditated a lot this year. I'll tell you that, to calm myself down. A lot of virtual yoga, since my yoga studio closed and went virtual. And yeah, there we are, sitting in your house looking at a screen again. But then taking those tools, I guess we could call them, and bringing them down to the studio and saying, how do I make this mine, so that when you look at my work, you see me? And more than ever this year, that has been, my goal, is to to make myself more vulnerable, to put myself out there on canvas and paper. It's always been difficult for me to do that. I've worked in so many different corporate, working for a magazine, working for a publisher, working for an exhibit company, and I'm doing work for other people. But this work is for me, and it feels sometimes selfish. It's like, why am I doing this for me? What does it even mean? And does it matter? Well, yeah, of course it matters. It totally matters. So those are the things that I have been signaling myself, because it matters that my artists in my shop are creating and doing what they love, and they keep doing it, and we are supporting that. And it is just as important for me to be spending that time working on myself, on my work in my studio, so that I can be a better person to everyone else and helping and mentoring them.
What's your favorite piece of art that you have created through this past year? Because you've been very intentional. You've been very thoughtful about putting vulnerable and raw pieces out there. But what's your favorite that you've done?
So I actually did this painting, this figurative painting, right at the beginning of 2020. And it was a little dark for me. I don't typically do dark. When I say dark, it just has a more moody undertone. And the figurative is of this woman. It's on my website. Her face is a little obscured, but she's wearing this very vividly striped magenta dress. And it's a 3 by 3 foot painting. And it was one of those paintings where I started out in a very abstract way. I didn't know where it was going. And it was hanging in my studio for a while. And I kept walking in and looking at it and turning it upside down and rotating it. And then at some point, I just saw like a face come out of it. And I thought, oh, okay, well, let's go in this direction. And I started painting this woman. And she's looking right at you. You can only see half of her face, but it started making me feel very emotional. And I don't know what the painting actually meant that time, but that piece has been my favorite, and it has not sold yet. And a woman was looking at it last week, and I started feeling like this twinge of no. I don't know if I want to sell that. But that, yeah, it's called The Psychic. I called it.
Ooh, that sounds really interesting. I'm going to need to go look for it on your website. So taking what you've learned from 2020, and 2020 has been a learning opportunity, and you can look at it a couple of different ways. I particularly am looking at this past year as being a big, giant learning lesson after learning lesson after learning lesson. And it sounds like you have done the same. You've taken the opportunity of growth, because that's what it is. It's been an opportunity for growth. How do you take all of those lessons and start anew in 2021? And I know that everybody is anxious to put 2020 in the books and to say goodbye to it, but it's not going to magically go away. The calendar will change, but the situation, it may not change. What
Right.
is the opportunity to change is our mindset. So what is your fresh mindset that you're going to enter 2021 with?
So I would say 2021 is going to be about expectations, right?
Oh yeah, on all kinds of levels.
And whether we set them aside and try to be more present, and living in the moment. And then of course there's going to be times when we fail at that. Um, I mean, I think it's going to be one day at a time for me. And one thing that I have learned from practicing yoga for many, many, many years is that the practicing of living in the moment and being present is one of the hardest things to do as a human being. And but I feel like this year, because I don't have to be, even though we didn't get to go on vacation, and you didn't have to go to your job, and you just had to stay home. I honestly feel like it was the most wonderful break from the world spinning and all of the activity and all the things. As much as that is enjoyable, the slowing down, taking a breath, I feel healthier in a way. Not healthier like I probably should be exercising more, but healthier in my mind. My mind isn't always making lists. I will tell you, it started making lists this week, and I thought, what's happening? Why am I making lists?
Were you making a list, like, getting ready for the holidays and trying to
Yeah,
make the holidays as normal-ish as
yeah,
possible?
yeah, totally. And I even think going into 2021, we're very conscious of having your lists in January, putting your bullet journal together, getting your fresh, ideas. I don't think I'm going to do that in 2021. I think January 1's going to come and go, and I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And if I have an aha moment on January 14th, I'll be like, yes, yes, let's do that. And if nothing happens and February goes by and March goes by, and we're just still churning along, I think it's just going to be about staying present, taking each day one at a time. That's all we can do. If I start looking ahead too much, that's too scary for me.
I would agree, because all of these grand plans that we've all had to cancel has been disappointing. And I think that what you're saying is, instead of making these grand plans and making these lists, and I've got to prepare this and I got to prepare that, you're going to take 2021 as an opportunity to breathe and take each day one day at a time, rather than, as some of us, we have to plan our or did plan our calendars 30 days in advance, or
Mhm.
just constantly moving. We've got to have 30 days in advance. We've got to make a grocery list. We've got to do plan meals, plan this, plan that. What you're saying is that was not, maybe that was a thing that wasn't working for you. I think that was a thing that wasn't working for a lot of us. And from what I'm hearing you're saying, you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to take 2021 one day at a time, rather than making myself crazy with the busyness of doing.
Well, and I will tell you, the busyness of doing kept me out of my studio.
Oh, that's bad for an artist.
I mean, if we want to talk about 2019, I had a pretty productive year, but if I really looked back on it, I could have been in the studio more. But there's a lot of excuses you give. I got to do all these things before I treat myself and go to the studio. Now it is part of my every day. I am down there, even if I'm in there for 10 minutes cleaning something out or writing some notes, or if I'm in there for 3 hours. Every day I make myself go down there. It is my, it is my habit now. And it wasn't my habit. And I have two kids. I have teenagers and a husband and a dog, and all of those guys need my attention too. And they still will have my attention. But you come up with all of the different ideas in your head. You're like, oh, I got to do all these things first, and then I'll go to my studio. And then it's 5 o'clock, and you never made it down to the studio. And then you're making dinner,
So it
and then
sounds
and
like,
it's done.
yeah, I mean, many of us have had those days, but it sounds like, at least to me, it sounds like you have made you a priority in 2020, and will carry that with you in 2021, even if it was for 10 minutes at a time.
That's
You
right.
gave yourself importance, which is
Well,
a
you know how
terrible
people
habit
always,
that we don't do as women. We make ourselves the bottom of the list.
yes, exactly. I was knowingly doing it. You do that as a parent. You put yourself last. You put your kids first. You put your husband, whatever, your family, your mom, your dad, and you leave yourself last. And I have been doing that for years. And I don't think that was working for me.
No,
I
I
mean,
don't think it works for many of us.
you think you're doing the right thing. You're like, oh, okay, this is what I need to be doing. And it feels good when you're doing it, except when you don't have time left for yourself.
Right.
Then that doesn't feel good at all.
No.
Then there's guilt and regret, and I will say that having all the time to think and meditate about my work and where I want to go with it and where I've been, I have to stop myself from regretting not doing more for myself. So that's how I'm beating up myself in 2020. Why did I not realize 5 years ago, 2 years ago, that I wasn't at least just giving myself 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes a day in my studio? Why didn't I do that? I was being regretful. But obviously, there's nothing to be done for that now. And I can change that. I can go forward and do the absolute polar opposite of that.
I think that that is an amazing thing to take into 2021. And like I said, it's been a gift of 2020. Um, I don't want to leave your artists out. So, as audience members that are working to support all of our female endeavors, our female small businesses, because many of your artists are, this is how they make a living. This is how they take care of their families. How can we actively support not only you, but all of the artists that you mentor and give space to support?
Yeah, I think definitely shopping this holiday season local. If you can find a local, whether it's a handmade local artist shop or a mom and pop business, whether they're an artisan food maker and they're making food local, any of that, I I love to see people supporting local. When people come in my shop and say, I love what you're doing, and I have made a pact with myself and my family that we're only going to shop handmade for the holidays. And I'm like, that's amazing because that's not like the easiest thing to do with Amazon.
No, I mean,
Amazon,
it's not. Amazon is convenient, and I can get it tomorrow. In some cities, you can
correct.
get it in 3 hours.
No, and Amazon is fabulous. I have no, big old issue with it, but when I am very happy to hear people come in and say that they want to support local this holiday season. It warms my heart for sure, because that is our goal, is to uh, have as many opportunities for our artists to sell their work, not just during the holidays but year round. Like, think of supporting local even when you're like, oh, I just want to get this quick or I need it today. And I know sometimes it's hard to just get in your car and go directly to a brick and mortar and walk in. It's like people don't do that anymore, at least not this year.
No,
But
not this year.
but I think I do think people are recognizing the importance of that now more than ever, because you're not going to go to a mall. Who's going to a mall?
No, I
I'm not
haven't been
going
in
to
a
a mall.
mall in months, months.
I think
And
I
I
went once and I had to make a return, and I was like, I am never coming back here. And I feel bad for the malls because there's some great stores in there, but I just feel like these standalone businesses that are suffering so hard this year. I mean, I have seen a number of our, just in our community, shops that have closed. They couldn't make it work. They couldn't make their rent. That it just was impossible. And I'm grateful that we were able to get on the other side of it. We got a loan, we got a grant, and that was everything. Um, but just and then we just keep promoting our artists over and over, not stopping, tireless. That's all we do.
So if we want to come and virtually see your artists, what is your artist website, or I should say your gallery website?
Yes, so it's called Garage Door Studio, and it's in Avondale Estates, Georgia. It's garagedoorstudio.com. And all of our artists are on the website, so you can see each one in their category. And every item is for sale on the website. We have it all converted to e-commerce.
And for yourself, because you are a full-time artist yourself, not just a gallery owner, but for yourself, you have your own website. Where can we go to see your art specifically?
Yes. So my website is Jen Singh, JenSingh.com. And if you sign up on my website, anyone who's a new customer gets 20% off their purchase on my website.
That's a wonderful, generous gift. Thank you, because hopefully that will encourage many people to go and look for something for a unique gift, and go and look and see Jen's work. I've seen quite a bit of it, and it's beautiful. She does beautiful, beautiful things. I am particularly. I'm particularly fond of one of your more recent pieces that you've been doing that I believe is of a fawn, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Um, and I think it's beautiful. It's a really interesting. She has a really interesting perspective, and I think you'll all enjoy it. So please, everybody, go and support these artists on both of those sites. Um, Jen, thank you for spending this time with me today. But before I let you run, I have a couple of questions that I want to ask you. Um, and I'm going to switch it up a little bit, because you guys are getting smart and you're studying, and you guys are getting prepared with the answers. So I'm going to switch it up just a little bit. Um, so this year's been interesting, as you know, but there's been a couple of things that have emerged from it, and it's been a long time coming. And many people have been studying this and have been anticipating this, but it is becoming the year where women are stepping into leadership in a really big way. Um, More women than any other year ran for some sort of public office this year, and that's amazing. So, with that being said, what is the characteristic in a female leader that is the most important to you?
I would say the most important characteristic would be honesty,
Ooh.
integrity, grace. How about three? How's that?
Oh, those are good. Those are good. Those are great
Yeah.
attributes. And one of those that you say that resonates the most with me is grace. And in a couple of different ways, because we don't give ourselves enough grace, which translates that we don't give each other enough grace, which I think we need a lot more of. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. So, another question for you.
Okay.
And I've actually asked this before, and I'm going to keep asking it just because I'm really, really fascinated with the answers. Uh, of all of the books that you have read, what is one that you say everybody must read?
Oh, I read so many books. Okay. I gotta think. I like to read a lot of historical fiction, and I've read um, I've read The Queen's Fool. If anyone's read Philippa Gregory,
Yes, she's awesome.
yeah, yeah. And so I really love her, and I actually love reading Jhumpa Lahiri. She's an Indian author, and she's written a couple different books. One of them I read, Unaccustomed Earth, just a gorgeous, gorgeous book.
That's
Um,
that sounds really interesting. I have not heard of her, but
okay,
I know that there are a lot of audience members out there that are constantly looking for something intriguing to read. So that's why I continue to ask a different spin of this question, because they want to know. And we've got
yeah.
lots of voracious readers out there. Um, Last question. what would you tell your 25-year-old self?
That's when I got married. Okay. Um, I would say you still have a lot to see. And everywhere you go from this day forward, pay attention and and remember how these journeys will affect you and your decision making and your thoughtfulness in what you do going forward. So every action, think about every action and every experience that you do and try to remember and allow it to affect your decisions as you get older. Think
Ooh,
about that when I was traveling, because you think about places where you've gone or people that you've met and they kind of just come and go. And I'm glad that I journaled a lot during that time. And to go back and read all that, I think would be fascinating. I haven't gone back and read a lot of my journals from those days. You're reminding me.
and that would be a fascinating experience to go back and
Yeah,
and read what your 25-year old self said to you to read to the future.
yeah,
That would be
yeah.
interesting. I wonder what I said. I'll have to go back and look.
I
I
know.
have no idea.
I might. I have a terrible long-term memory, so
Mhm. So before I let you run this afternoon, and I have loved every minute of our conversation, but before you run off today, I want to give you an opportunity for one final statement to the audience. What would you say?
I would say if you have any yearning for creativity in your life, and even if you call yourself not a creative person, find something that creatively brings you joy, that is just for you and nobody else, that you can do on your own time that provides a meditative journey.
Ooh, that is amazing statement because it goes back to that finding time for yourself and taking one day at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm,
Yes.
Jen, thank you so much for spending this time with me and with us today. I truly, truly appreciate you s- giving a little piece of yourself to us. Uh, would you mind repeating the website addresses for us one more time?
Yes. So my personal website is jensing.com and my gallery's website is garagedoorstudio.com.
Thank you for that. And remember, as a first time visitor, first time patron, she will give you 20% off from her personal webpage. So please go take advantage of that. Um, Jen, thank you again for spending this time with me. Everybody go and support your local artists, support your local small businesses, especially the female owned businesses. They're using it to support their family. And I thank you all for spending your time with me today. And we'll see you again next time. That's our show. Thank you all so much for coming. You know that this doesn't get done in a vacuum, so I want to make sure that I recognize and thank each and every one that contributes to the success of this show. Number one, our guests. Your willingness to be vulnerable and authentic continues to blow me away, and I cannot thank you enough. Second, my audience. You guys are amazing. When I put out the call for your help, you always respond. Thank you so much for your continued support, and I hope we continue to earn your time. Producing this show every single week is a true joy and pleasure, but it is definitely not done singularly. I have an entire team that is helping me produce this and publish this for you. Savannah Boster manages our social media. Alan Bruckner is our creative artist. Stardita is the composer of our music. Jessica Fechner is our operations. Tisha Lucero is our people person. Tina Lindsay is our marketing person. And Gavin Egan, who helped start it all. Thank you all so much for coming, and we'll see you again next time.
This is just the beginning.
That's our show. I am so grateful for each and every one of you and your unwavering support and your continued belief in this movement that has become much bigger than me, much bigger than just a podcast. It has become this forward momentum that we are all doing together. If you are ready, or you know somebody that is ready to tell your story and share your value with the world, please connect with me. You can reach me at audra@womeninthearena.net. I am so honored and thankful that you will share your story with me, and I'll make sure that it is well taken care of. I will never stop thanking each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next week as we share another woman's story and we celebrate her doing extraordinary things in plain sight. We'll see you next time.